gentlemen, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Welcome everybody to my second WWE special video. This video is going to talk about the breaking news that came to me this afternoon, where I found out that 8 WWE superstars were released from WWE. And 2 of them I want to focus more on because one of them caught me by surprise, one I was expecting, but this guy deserves to be talked about for this video. So, the 8 superstars that were released today, I'm trying to remember them all of them, were Hornswoggle, El Torito, Cameron, Santino Marella, Zeb Coulter, Alex Riley, Damien Sandow, and King Barrett, or as Alex referred him to as Bad News Barrett, because that gimmick was probably his best one. Most of these guys I expected to go. I mean, like, most of them just were pointless, had nothing left to do, or didn't really have anything in the WWE for them at all. Like, Hornswoggle, I mean, for years he was just this random little attraction guy that just came along for, like, Vince McMahon's son and, I don't know, like, Finley's child. I can't remember exactly all of that when I was watching some old pay-per-views, but I don't know why. Just a Hornswoggle character, like, never really appealed to me that well. Same with the El Torito character. I think the last time we really saw these two was, well, I remember they feuded together at Payback and Extreme Rules back in 2014. And, I know El Torito was, bullied by Los Matadores last September, I believe. So, those two, you know, didn't really care. Cameron, kind of the same thing. She was only around just for Total Divas, and she got lost in the spotlight, I believe, after her and Naomi split up when they were the Funkadactyls. Santino Marella, I thought he retired years ago, but I don't know if he was still under contract or doing stuff behind the scenes, so I have nothing really to say there. Zeb Coulter, I mean, he was, you know, I didn't understand, like, what the heck they were doing with Zeb Coulter. Especially, because, I mean, I liked it when he was with Jack Swagger. Now, I thought that worked out really well. But I think it was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was after the, during the build-up for the pointless U.S. title match at TLC in 2014. That's when they originally wrote Zeb Coulter off when Rusev attacked him backstage. And they brought him back at Hell in a Cell in 2015. But then there was the big surprise return of Alberto Del Rio, and they paired them together for about a month as called in that whole Mex-American gimmick, which I don't think worked out well at all. That was just terrible. And then they split, after a month, they split him and Del Rio up, and he never saw Coulter again. So, I mean, I think Coulter's time in WWE just ran out. Especially since, you know, I'm surprised Swagger actually wasn't on this list unless he already left and I'm not aware of it. I'm not sure. But yeah. Alex Riley, I mean, he's supposed to be on NXT on Wednesday wrestling Shinsuke Nakamura, which I believe we all know that NXT is taped ahead of time, like SmackDown. So, I mean, Alex Riley, he was just around as The Miz's rookie from NXT Season 2, and then he had a short feud with The Miz. And then he didn't do anything with him after that. So it's like they never really, you know, pushed him much at all. He had a few decent matches on NXT, had some pretty good song, but yeah, I'm not completely surprised by Alex Riley. But the other 2 that I haven't talked about yet that I want to talk a little bit about is first one, the one that surprised me the most was Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow was somebody who, you know, got put in the doghouse because he got lost in the crowd of talent. And, sorry about the sneeze, I'm still running a little bit of a cold from the allergies. But I feel that with both Damien Sandow and we'll get to Bad News Barrett, they didn't try. I'm sorry, they did not try. I mean, Damien Sandow first came along, I believe, in 2012, I think. I believe so. I believe so, yeah, because I think Cody Rhodes and Damien Sandow formed Team Rhodes Scholars around the same time when Team Hell No formed, which I think that was an okay tag team, but they never won any championships. They just got involved in feuds and stuff. And then they split them up, I believe, at Money in the Bank when Sandow won the 2013 SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase. Well, the one for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then a couple months later, I think it was shortly after Hell in a Cell, I believe, in between Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, they had Sandow try to cash in on John Cena at Raw. Cena beat Sandow, and after that, it was just downhill for Sandow after that. I mean, the question I want to propose here, though, is, they have all these other, older talent, other stars who don't really have much left that they need to do in their careers. And, like Triple H, they've allowed him to lose a few big matches to some upcoming new stars. They've allowed Chris Jericho to do the same thing. Trying to think here. I mean, The Undertaker lost to Brock Lesnar. Didn't make him look so immortal anymore. Why can't they let somebody do that to John Cena? I think Cena as a U.S. champion worked for the most part, except for the fact that he buried Rusev and he beat Kevin Owens twice in a row after Owens beat him in his first match in WWE. But I think him as U.S. champion was okay. But still, it's like, why can't you just get the guy like a loss here and there? And even back at their Hell in a Cell match between him and Del Rio when Del Rio returned, they made him look very weak. It's like, if you made someone like Del Rio beat him that easily, why couldn't you make somebody else beat him that easily? Why couldn't have let Sandow win the World Heavyweight Championship? Because after that, I think it was after he had that tainted win on the Great Khali, whenever they didn't realize in a replay that Khali's shoulder was off the ground when he did the roll up, and after that it was just downhill for Sandow. He never won a match again. It was stupid, until he teamed up with The Miz and became Damien Mizdow, and that people loved him. He's going to the crowd great, and then after the Royal Rumble and Road to WrestleMania, they started, teasing more of a breakup between The Miz and Mizdow. Instead of, him being The Miz's stunt double, he was The Miz's personal assistant. And then at WrestleMania, in the already Battle Royal, it was just The Miz, Mizdow, and Big Show. And then that time Mizdow eliminated The Miz. Should have won the Battle Royal, but instead it was Big Show. And then they made their feud together on Raw. I think he beat him once, but then after that, I think Miz beat Mizdow twice. And the last match, which I was hoping Mizdow would lose, only because, it was a match for whoever won the match would get to keep the Miz brand. Now, I think the problem, though, what happened was at the time, Miz was getting ready to be written off the show because that's when he was going to be in the filming for Santa's Little Helper. I believe it was that movie that both him and Paige were in. And of course, I was like, okay, let him lose, go back to Damien Sandow. And then, maybe since Miz and Paige were only gone for about maybe a month or so, I can't remember, have him feud with an undercard guy. And then, after that, have him feud with The Miz, because The Miz wanted to prove... The Miz claimed that Sandow was nothing without him, and because even the Raw the week after he went back to Damien Sandow, when he gave that long heartfelt speech to the fans and stuff, solidifying his face turn. It was just this is a guy, they're starting to give him this nice push. I was excited, and then afterwards when Curtis Axel came out. And that's when he was on that Axelmania role. And then they for a week or two, they gave Sandow that imitation gimmick. And I'm just like, okay, this is already sounding a little stupid already. Are they still going to treat him as a complete joke? And then a week or two later, when it was getting into the build-up for Payback, out of nowhere, they turned Curtis Axel face. And they put Axel as Axelmania, and then Damien Sandow came Macho Man down there, the Meta Powers 2.0. What? Like, why? Like, they're pretty much being two guys that already had a solidified legacy in Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. You don't need that repeated again. These stars need their own gimmick, their own legacy. And then I can't remember who won that match between them and the Ascension. I don't care at all. But after that, that's when the whole thing with Hulk Hogan came down. He got fired by WWE, and they had to take both the Axelmania gimmick off. Curtis Axel was not seen again until the new year when he started off with the Social Outcasts, and then Sandow just went poof. You didn't see him again until, I believe, that pre-show match for the Royal Rumble. But and then after that, he was still a joke. And then you saw him this past week or so before Payback this year, where he suffered a loss to Baron Corbin. And I thought they were going to start, bringing Sandow around more, put him on a show, but then they release him. I mean, that's one person that the WWE just did not try with. Like, Damien Sandow was talented. He was over with the crowd. But again, they just didn't put him on television for most of 2015 after him and The Miz split up. And literally, you could have just put him, maybe have him and Axel just have with the exception of that imitations gimmick, because that was annoying. You could have had him and Axel have like a match or something at like Extreme Rules or Payback, and then for the Elimination Chamber last year, then you could have you would put Miz and Sandown for the Intercontinental title Elimination Chamber match, and then have them feud just to have Sandow win that feud to prove that he didn't need anybody to be successful. But no, they didn't. And now, unfortunately, he's released. So, Damien Sandow, I was a fan of you. I feel like you could have been treated a lot better than you were, but I wish you the very best. And, of course, the other one who I want to talk a little bit about was Bad News Barrett. Well, King Barrett, as he's been recently called. And, unfortunately, that's how he is labeled in the WWE alumni tab, as I looked today after I saw the news. Wade Barrett was another guy who... he had some success, more success than Damien Sandow, but there could have been more from him, but WWE just didn't write him correctly. He came on as the leader of the Nexus in 2010. They're making him as this dominant force. A whole crowd of 7 or so superstars that were very talented and deserved a big shot on the roster. And what happens at SummerSlam in 2010... John Cena Team WWE defeats the Nexus, which I feel they should have done the opposite, of course, and had the Nexus win, build them up as that dominant big stable, and then they had Wade Barrett go after the title at that 6-pack challenge at Night of Champions, and then I believe it was Hell in a Cell when they turned their focus back to Cena, and the stipulation was if Cena wins, Nexus is gone. If Cena loses, he must join the Nexus, which they used the good heel tactics. And Cena was forced to join the Nexus, and then the feud ended up turning the tables. Eventually, a month later, at TLC, the feud concluded whenever John Cena faced Wade Barrett in a chairs match, and then the way they brought Cena back to it was so cheap. He just decided to bring him back, face him in a chairs match. So it's some of these things that WWE does makes no sense. How many times were the Authority had their superstars that they didn't like, so you're not getting any other chance to do this, but then they out of nowhere just give them a chance. As I talked about a couple of video, I can't remember which video it was. I saw it on someone else's channel where they said, for even after the Royal Rumble, they said that Roman Reigns was not getting another shot at the title as long as Triple H was the champion. And then what happened at the end of the night? They're giving him a title shot. That's just, it didn't make any sense at all, why they would just have Wade Barrett come back, let Cena come back. It should have had, Maybe make that chairs match stipulation. If Cena wins, he comes back or something like that. Just make it a little more sense. Well, the fact also that at the end of that match, they like buried Wade Barrett underneath the chairs, and there was the core for a few months, and then I think Wade Barrett was an Intercontinental Champion for a brief time. And then he had a dumb feud with Ezekiel Jackson, his former core member, and then he just had a couple short Intercontinental title runs, and I think injuries hampered him. I know he was supposed when he came back in 2014 after WrestleMania 30. Well, he was around for a while, but while he was injured, I think that's when he gave birth to the Bad News gimmick, which was getting over big time with the crowd. And then he returned to the ring the night after WrestleMania 30. He beat Rey Mysterio in a match, and then he beat Big E Langston for the Intercontinental title. And then like a month or two later, before Money in the Bank, he was supposed to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He gets hurt in a house show in a match against Jack Swagger. And then he came back last January, and he really had a match to get his Intercontinental title back from Dolph Ziggler. And then even those two, like, you know, leading up to WrestleMania, even with the Intercontinental title, they were still treated like a joke. I mean, him and Dean Ambrose could have had a solid match at Fastlane. Instead, they set it up for that ladder match, but they set it up with the Intercontinental title being like this like hot potato, like everybody was taking the title, which I found kind of stupid, honestly. And then also, take a few steps back, at the time also, you know, when the Bad News gimmick was getting over, because you notice he'd be coming out when he was coming back saying, "It's me, it's me, it's B and B," and people loved it. But then for 1 week they had that BNZ thing called the Bad News Zone. And I was like, for one week, I'm like, what the heck? And then, you know, they him and Dean Ambrose, like I said, didn't have too good of a match at Fastlane. They pretty much just set up for that whole hot potato thing with the Intercontinental title leading up to WrestleMania 31 for the ladder match, which that match turned out okay. But then after that, you know, he was supposed to have his rematch at Extreme Rules against Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title, but that's when Daniel Bryan got his career-ending concussion, and instead he faced Neville in a match, and this was shortly after he had won the King of the Ring, and what was it again? Yeah, he won King of the Ring, and then he just kept losing after that. Losing. I mean, you know, it was okay to give Neville, like, you know, a match or two against him, but they didn't have much of a storyline between the two of them. It didn't really work out for that feud. And I remember they let him be in the Intercontinental title Elimination Chamber match, which he lost. And trying to think, you know, he was just really dry, and then this is where I thought they were going to turn him face. They paired him up with Stardust to take on Neville and Stephen Amell at SummerSlam. And then the night after SummerSlam, I think they needed to find a reason to write him off the show because he's going to be in part of a movie for about a month. Oh shoot. I lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, the night after SummerSlam, before a match they were supposed to have, Stardust attacked Wade Barrett. It was kind of like a weak attack that wrote him off the show. And then he came back. It was a match between Stardust and Neville, and he attacked both of them. And I felt like right there they should have just turned Barrett face, took that King Barrett gimmick off him because it was terrible, and put the Bad News gimmick back on him. But no, that's not what they did. Instead, they kept him as a heel. Made no sense why he would attack Stardust. And then towards the end of the year, that's when they formed the League of Nations. Because for a while, it looked like they were starting to form a tag team out of both him and Sheamus. But then when Sheamus cashed in, they formed the League of Nations, which did not work out too well. I was hoping it would work for except for Alberto Del Rio, because I don't like Del Rio. But I was hoping it would work out to help Sheamus build a better character, for Rusev to get back into where he was before he got buried by Cena, and for, you know, Barrett to actually look strong again. Well, here's what I didn't like. Barrett had a little bit of a neck injury most of the time when he was with the League of Nations. And instead of having him just sitting out and resting. They had him out there at ringside, just being like, as just a stand-in. Even when they would advertise him actually being in the match, he would get in the match. He would just be just a stand-in pretty much. And that, I think that hurt his character even more. And when he came back, he was able to wrestle. They were treating him like a complete joke anyway, because a couple of matches where they made it elimination style. Who is the only one that would get eliminated? Barrett. Exactly, that's what happened. They still made the guy look like a joke. And then, when he announced, I think it was not so long before WrestleMania, that once his contract expired next month, in June, that he was not going to be coming back, which I still think, good for you, because, you got treated like trash the whole time you were here. And, night after WrestleMania, after the League of Nations won in that very terrible WrestleMania match against the New Day. I think it was Barrett who did the bullhammer from another while one of the referees was being distracted. I can't remember if it was that or another time leading up to their WrestleMania match. But then the night after, Sheamus cuts this promo after they lose to the League of Nations in a tag team title match, saying that there's something wrong. Everyone knows that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that's when he bro kicked Barrett, and they just pretty much just rolled him out of the ring before the Wyatt family came in and attacked them. And then I even watched the backstage interview. It's just like he's saying he doesn't care all the League of Nations think, he doesn't care what the WWE fans think, and he just walks away. And that's the last time we've really seen him on TV. And they've talked about him once or twice, saying how they kicked him out of the League of Nations. But and then of course the League of Nations ended up splitting up anyway. But I wish I would have had him go out on a better note than just getting kicked out, because that just shows how much trash the WWE thought of him. And somewhere along the way they should have turned him face. When he was Bad News Barrett, when he came back after WrestleMania 30, I think they should have turned him face, because he was getting so over with the crowd. What did they do? They take the bad news gimmick off him, throw the crown on his head, and his career crashed pretty much. So again, I was expecting I wasn't expecting him to be announced as one of the people being released, but I knew that he was about to get ready to head out of WWE, which good for him again, because Wade Barrett, I was a fan of you, but unfortunately you weren't treated properly. I mean, you got I think 5 intercontinental title wins, but unfortunately you were you should have definitely at one point or twice, any time in your career, but you had WWE World Heavyweight Championship material. So that's all my thoughts I wanted to share about the 8 releases from WWE today. Again, most of these guys I felt weren't really much. Again, like the one that surprised me was Sandow and Wade Barrett. So I wish them all the best. Real quick also, before I wrap up this video, I just want to leave my thoughts also on a video that was made earlier by my friend Dan Guys. If you want to check this out, it's a short 5-minute video. He just laid his thoughts out on what should happen to Bray Wyatt once he comes back from his injury, which was a pulled hamstring that's keeping him out for about 6 to 8 weeks. I agree, that they're probably going to have him come back as a babyface, the whole Wyatt family. They're teasing that with that feud with the League of Nations. I honestly think if the Wyatt family, with Bray Wyatt didn't get hurt, I think that they should have waited to split the League of Nations until after the Wyatt family had that. Probably we're going to have a match with them at Payback. And then maybe have the Wyatt family cause League of Nations to split up. But definitely with Bray, since now he was injured coming back, have them feud with a lower level team or a lower level card person, just to get him get him some momentum, and then I think then you can probably get him back into the title picture, because he teased that one time before WrestleMania, brushing off on the title where Triple H had it, thinking, that's what he's coming for. I think it's time you start pushing Bray Wyatt towards one of the titles, whether it's the Intercontinental title, United States title, even have the whole Wyatt family go after the Tag Team Championship, something like that, because they should have had some type of title win by now. But, I agree with the idea that Dan said about, Roman Reigns turning heel, having him face Bray Wyatt, because I really like that tag team match that when Roman and Bray teamed up against 2 members of the League of Nations. Like, that was a really cool moment. And as Shane says, and I agree, I digged it. So, but yeah, and then, I mean, even maybe having them feud with the Balor Club or the Bullet Club, whatever they call it, if Finn Balor does come up and team with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. But the only thing I'm just worried about that feud is I don't want Balor or Gallows and Anderson to be buried. Like, I don't want them to be losing quite yet. So make them a strong unit. So maybe not quite the Balor Club yet. But yeah, that's just a brief overview. And I didn't want to make this video too much longer. But so yeah, those are my thoughts on the releases and just an overview of Bray Wyatt. I encourage you also to leave any responses about any of these topics. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, my pro channel, and of course Dan's channel as well. Check out that 5-minute video of him talking about what's next should be next for Bray Wyatt. Again, as always, leave your comments in the comment section below on what you think of any of the stuff I talked about, or is there anything you want me to discuss my opinion on. And with that, I will see you all later, everybody. So till next time, peace. Tonight is the night.